If you've been online anytime in the last year, you probably noticed that we are living in a world dominated by two words, maxing and mogging. A world word-mogged by suffix maxing. Being something of a Lingcell word maxer myself, I noticed that literally just a few days ago, The Guardian published a massive feature asking if the sudden omnipresence of mogging in our mainstream vocabulary is a problem. We've seen Olympic figure skaters look into a camera and say their strategy is simply to mog the competition.
I feel like my main goal for this competition was to mog.
We've seen people talk about sleep maxing with mouth tape or rot maxing by spending 48 hours straight in bed. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're like vegans. How do you know somebody's vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you. And in a recent class, a higher belt said that he enjoyed mogging the noob cells. Some of you will probably accuse me in the comments of using my PhD in linguistics to lingmog The Guardian while they're in their slang maxing era, slang maxing for clout. What started deep in the darkest, most insular corners of internet forums, specifically the manosphere and incel subcultures, has completely broken out of containment. The edge has been bleached away, leaving the rest of us with a whimsical, modular toolkit of casual, everyday slang. But as a linguist, I don't just care about what these words mean. I care about how they built an entire world of vocabulary so fast. Because if you look closely at how words like looksmaxxing, mogging, and femcel evolved, they actually challenge some of the foundational textbook theories about how language change happens. They show that our speech communities don't always evolve language step by step over generations. They also stamp it out using structural blueprints. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Taylor Jones. I've got a PhD in linguistics from the University of Pennsylvania, and on the channel, I discuss everything related to language, linguistics, language learning, and culture. If you're into those topics, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I'm Dr. Taylor Jones, and this is Language Jones. What, you were expecting some ling-maxing pun? Hey, this part of the video is sponsored by Mint Mobile, and honestly, I'm not mad about it, because I've been paying way too much for wireless for years, and Mint is genuinely the first thing that made me do a double take at my bill. You get unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network, free calls to Mexico, Canada, and the UK, yes, free, plus a hotspot included. That's not the stripped down version, that's the plan. Here's the part that actually makes sense. Mint lets you buy months in bulk, 3, 6, or 12 months up front, and the more you commit, the more you save. It's like buying in bulk at a warehouse store, except it's wireless and there's no giant tub of pretzels involved. You pick how much data you actually need, 5 gig, 15 gig, 20 gig, or unlimited, so you're not stuck paying for a one-size-fits-all plan that fits nobody. And before you say switching sounds like a whole thing, it's not. You can activate in minutes with an eSIM, keep your number, keep your contacts, and if it somehow isn't for you, there's a 7-day money-back guarantee. Stop overpaying for wireless just because that's how it's always been. With premium plans starting at $15 a month, Mint helps you break the traditional wireless cycle. Check it out at mintmobile.com. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plans optional, available, taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for more details. To understand why these internet words are breaking the rules, we have to look at the classic rulebook. For like the last century, if you asked a linguist how a normal everyday word turns into a functional piece of grammar, they'd point you to a concept called grammaticalization. Grammaticalization is the slow-motion evolutionary pipeline of language. It happens when a regular content word, like a noun or a verb with a concrete meaning, slowly loses its specific meaning over hundreds of years and morphs into a structural grammatical tool. Let's look at a classic English example, the phrase going to. Centuries ago, if you said, I'm going to visit the king, you meant literal movement. You were departing in order to visit the king. Your legs were moving toward a destination. But over generations, the concrete meaning of physical movement started to fade or bleach. It turned into a general tool to mark the future tense. Today, when you say, it's going to rain, nobody thinks the clouds are departing to rain somewhere else. It shrank phonetically too, turning into gonna. And notice you can't use gonna the same. You can't say, I'm gonna the store. That's grammaticalization. It's gradual, it takes centuries, it moves in one direction from a real-world object to an abstract grammatical tool, and the word usually shrinks in sound. So if we apply this old model to internet slang, we'd expect words like maximum or phrases like to the max to slowly agonizingly grind down over a few hundred years until it becomes a tiny suffix. Like how then a mother became then a mug, Black English, over a few generations for some speakers. Leave me a comment if you want a video about feeling hungry to muh. But that's not what happened here. This happened practically overnight. Here's where we get to an incredible recent paper by linguist Evelina Prajmo. I hope I'm saying her name right. In her research looking at the explosive word formation of online communities, she argues that traditional grammaticalization simply cannot explain what's happening here. Instead, she points us to an alternative framework, constructionalization. If you've watched recent videos, you know I'm going down this construction grammar rabbit hole. To understand constructionalization, you have to think of language not as a list of independent words, but as a massive network of mental blueprints. In linguistics, we call these blueprints constructions, conventional pairings of a specific form and a specific meaning. Under this model, language change doesn't happen by a single word slowly eroding over time. Instead, speakers grab a complex word pattern, recognize it as an abstract blueprint, and immediately use it to stamp out dozens of brand new words via analogy, like a freaking daguerreotype or stereotype. Let's take, for example, the suffix cell. First, in the late 1990s, the phrase involuntary celibate is coined as a standard standalone description. Are you as surprised as I was when I did the research on this and I found that it was coined in the 1990s, the late 20th century? Second, in the early 2000s, the phrase is condensed into a singular compound blend, incel. At this point, it's still just one specific noun. Then you have the schema birth. This is the crucial leap. Our brains stop seeing incel as an isolated word and start seeing it as a reusable blueprint. X-cell, where X means a person trapped in a specific identity or subculture. It's helped along by the fact that incel is a blend of clippings, so it looks like cell is a suffix, but one mostly devoid of meaning, like ject or the prefix raz. Lastly, mass adoption and widespread proliferation. Speakers instantly use analogy to populate a mental network. Femcell, female, gymcell, obsessed with fitness, cloutcell, addicted to online validation. And if this all sounds painfully Gen Z, it is and it isn't. Clout cells might be what a boomer would probably call, I don't know, a respectaholic. They've done this with the suffixes gate from Watergate, now any political boondoggle, and thon from marathon, like a cellathon at your local Toyota dealership. Not to mention the prefix franken for a kludged together mess of a thing, and omatic for something mechanized. This pathway, the one we outlined with cell, is exactly what Prajmo observed with maxing and mog. We didn't wait 300 years for maximize to decay. Instead, the community took looksmaxxing, a specific concept about facial aesthetics, and immediately abstracted the structural blueprint, X-maxing, which means to be obsessed with cultivating X. Within months, the internet was printing out money maxing, career maxing, and fame maxing. The word mog did the same thing. It started as an acronym, AMOG, alpha male of the group. It went through clipping to become mog, shifted its functional category into a verb meaning to dominate physically, and instantly formed a subschema for anatomical comparisons, height mogging, jaw mogging, and frame mogging, among others. So why does constructionalization win out over grammaticalization in the digital age? Prajmo's core argument is that internet culture creates highly concentrated insular linguistic environments. In an offline world, a new word blueprint takes generations to spread because you can only talk to a few people at a time. The change has to be slow and gradual to survive without breaking communication. But in an online echo chamber, thousands of highly active users are reading and typing the exact same text every single day. The feedback loop is hyper-accelerated. A structural blueprint of construction can be proposed, recognized, accepted, and mass reproduced across millions of screens in a matter of weeks. When a word crosses over from these forums to TikTok, for instance, the abstract construction is already fully formed. Mainstream speakers adopt the words, yes, but they also adopt the entire system. They instantly know how to slot a new noun into X-maxing because our brains are natural pattern detectors. We're pattern maxing. So when mainstream media outlets look at words like mogging and wonder if they're a problem, they're missing the real story. It's kind of disturbing to realize the word you've been using because it's fun and whimsical maybe originated with some terminally online white supremacist misogynist perverts jelk-maxing in their mother's basements because they're in a black-pilled incel echo chamber and they hope they can mew their way out of their self-loathing. But the very question betrays the answer. These things spread beyond their communities of origin and are eminently learnable constructions that it takes only a few exposures to acquire. At the bottom of The Guardian's fear-mongering, I think Monger's doing the same thing here, actually, about maxing and mogging, spreading manosphere, okay, osphere definitely is, worldviews, is a sort of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis arguing that our language shapes our thought, and we may become a people we don't really want to be if we indulge in using a new suffix or whatever. There's no empirical evidence for morphemes affecting worldview in that way, but there's mountains of empirical evidence of the opposite happening. Semantic bleaching. We keep the cell suffix and we jettison the involuntary celibate worldview. In the end, we word mog on the true cells. These words aren't just silly internet fads or signs of a decaying vocabulary. You can't point to new word formation and complain about vocabulary. Your interlocutor is literally word maxing. Instead, they're high-speed demonstrations of human cognitive mechanics. They show us that language doesn't just crawl forward in a straight line. It scales up in networks, adopting new patterns at the speed of thought. Next time you see someone ironically talk about meal maxing their lunch, you're not just watching a meme. You're watching constructionalization in the wild. Thanks for watching this, and let me know in the comments below, what's a new internet suffix that your brain has accidentally turned into a structural blueprint? Speaking of blueprints, if you want to know more about how language works, and you watched this far, so you probably do, you can sign up for the waitlist and for more info when my digital self-paced intro to linguistics, the language blueprint, is ready. That's at www.languagejones.com/blueprint. And you can always support the channel with super thanks or over at patreon.com/languagejones. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy learning.